Richard?
You haven't changed at all, Bruce.
You might be surprised.
What was that back there? The mask.
It's a way to keep my lives separate. I can't think of the last time we saw each other.
I bet you can remember the last time. The first time, too.
I'm eager to learn.
They all say that. Ben Turner, Richard Dragon, Shiva. Disciplined, honorable. She's very dedicated.
Ben.
Shiva.
I assume you're in some kind of trouble.
The Cobra Cult, a worldwide organization of murderous zealots.
Kill them.
We have to stop it, no matter what.
I ain't ever gonna turn down whooping somebody's ass.
No matter how much you train, evil remains.
We're not done yet.
Begin.
Our quarry is a bit more formidable than we thought.
That's handy.
This isn't gonna be easy.
Remember, you are stronger together than apart.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This is going to be my new Batman trailer video for the Soul of the Dragon movie that's coming out in January next year. They basically made a Batman blaxploitation film, like Batman meets Black Dynamite, but with all DC characters. So most of these characters will seem familiar, but there are some cool Easter eggs here because they have some actors that are playing the animated versions of characters that they already played in live action. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. There's going to be so many Batman movies coming out in the next couple of years, both animated and live action, so I'll talk about some of the other ones at the end of the video too. Obviously, we have Ben Affleck coming back as Batman in the Justice League Snyder Cut, and then the Flash Flashpoint movie, then we have the Robert Pattinson Batman movie with Matt Reeves. But there are a lot of animated Batman movies coming up too, and the ones that they've been releasing, including this one, are all rated R. That's right, the closest you'll get to a rated R Batman movie. But the synopsis for the movie just reads, set in the midst of the 1970s, as you can tell because this is blaxploitation, this Elseworlds adventure finds Bruce Wayne training under a master sensei. It's here that Bruce, along with other elite students, is forged in the fire of martial arts discipline. The lifelong bonds that they form will be put to the test when a deadly menace arises from their past. It will take the combined efforts of Batman, world-renowned martial artist Richard Dragon, Ben Turner, and Lady Shiva, and their mentor, O-Sensei, to battle the monsters of this world and beyond. So they do get into some mystical stuff during this. Like a lot of times Batman villains seem more practical, like it's detective noir thriller stories. This is more of an action kung fu story that spins up into more mystical territory. Like if Quentin Tarantino did Jackie Brown as a kung fu action movie with Batman, but they also had a lot of spiritual, mystical characters. You may recognize that Michael Jai White is playing Bronze Tiger. He also played the live-action version of that character on Arrow during their Suicide Squad arc in Season 2.
Only prisoners who grow coarse and harden from corporal punishment, but those as well who perpetrate the act or who are present to witness it.
Oh, please stop giving him books.
So this is your unit, huh, Waller? The OJ and Charles Manson weren't available?
It was too bad they couldn't bring him back for more episodes in later seasons, but I think that was more of an availability thing, and they also had the Suicide Squad movies, like the original Suicide Squad movie and the new one that James Gunn is doing, so I think that precluded them from doing more Suicide Squad stories. Kelly Hu is playing Lady Shiva. Obviously, she's shown up in a bunch of animated projects like Young Justice, but the actress was also in a lot of those Arrow Season 2 episodes as China White. Totally different character, but it's just cool to see so many Arrow characters and actors show up on this. This is their version of Richard Dragon, though. Obviously, a version of him showed up in the final seasons of Arrow as one of the big bads. That was more of a New 52 version of the Richard Dragon character. The version that they're doing during this movie is more of the original 1970s version of the character. He's being played by Mark Dacascos from John Wick. He was amazing in that movie. Most of you know Richard Dragon as a Green Arrow comic book villain, especially from the New 52, like I said, but he actually debuted in his own title back in the mid-1970s during the Kung Fu pop culture craze. Both Marvel and DC Comics were thirsty to get in on that action at the time, so they introduced their own versions of real-world pop culture heroes like Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, as you can imagine. Like Marvel's Shang-Chi in the Legend of the Ten Rings movie that's coming out next year, it's Marvel's version of Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon, except it has an actual dragon in it, Fing Fang Foom. the Shang-Chi character was based on Bruce Lee in real life. Richard Dragon kind of came off as DC's version of Chuck Norris. And fun fact too, as this all gets really meta and starts crossing over with each other, Chuck Norris got his start in the martial arts movies as a villain in a Bruce Lee movie called The Way of the Dragon. Their sensei also might sound familiar too. He's being played by James Hong from Big Trouble in Little China, one of my favorite deep cuts, and a billion other things. Like most of you probably at least remember him from the Kung Fu Panda movies. In this version of the story, Batman, Richard Dragon, Bronze Tiger, and Lady Shiva were once fellow pupils under this sensei learning Kung Fu in China before they all had their origin stories and became superheroes or supervillains. Years later, after he's become Batman, they all reunite when they learn about the threat from the past, which is basically the Cobra Cult, like they say during the trailer. That's another organization that debuted during that Kung Fu craze of the 1970s. And when I say that there's this mystical aspect of the story, they're basically a cult. They're called the Cobra Cult, trying to bring their god into the world. It's sort of this chaotic snake god. I don't know how much of those classic comics they're doing, but it just looks like a really fun Batman movie. And like they said, it's Elseworld, so it's not meant to be in the same canon as the movies like Justice League Apocalypse War or the traditional Justice League animated movies. Usually you can tell which movies are canon to that and which are not depending on who's voicing the character, but they kind of rebooted the DC animated movies with Justice League Apocalypse War and the latest Flashpoint that they had the Flash pull at the end of that. Right now they're just doing a whole bunch of Elseworld stories, and like I said, because Batman is so big right now, they're reintroducing a brand new version of the character in live action through Robert Pattinson in the Matt Reeves Batman trilogy of movies. It sounds like DC is just rolling really hard on their Batman franchise. So it is a really good time to be a Batman fan, but some of the other upcoming Batman movies that I talked about include Batman: The Long Halloween. They're doing that as a two-part movie, so obviously it's one of the best Batman stories of all time. It's great that they're doing a version of that comic book story. Even the live-action Matt Reeves Batman movie is adapting some elements of The Long Halloween, even though the story is original. It just involves a lot of plot elements and characters from The Long Halloween story. The animated Batman Long Halloween movie is actually going to be much closer to the original comic book plot, and they're breaking it into two parts so that they can adapt more of the story, because usually their animated movies are closer to 90 minutes, and it's kind of hard to fit an entire giant comic book arc into a 90-minute movie. Both parts of that, Part 1 and Part 2, are coming out next year. Part 1 is supposed to come out towards the end of the summer, I believe, and then Part 2 a couple months after that later in the year. Originally, they were going to overlap with the live-action Robert Pattinson Batman movie, but now that's been delayed to March 2022. So you have to start saying the Batman 2022 movie when you're talking about the Robert Pattinson movie. I also just did a couple videos for the new Batman Death in the Family movie that they released on home video. It's basically a choose-your-own-adventure style version of Under the Red Hood, done as a rated R movie. I think Under the Red Hood was actually rated R back in the day as well. The difference with the new version is that you have all these different character arcs and alternate endings depending on which choices you make. But the thing is that you can only get these alternate endings if you buy the Blu-ray. I think the iTunes release has some of the alternate endings listed as bonus features, but you don't get the interactive aspect to it, the visual novel mechanic, unless you actually buy the disc release. If you're a big anime fan or you've ever played any visual novel games before, it's the exact same thing, Maximum Weeb, just make it Batman. And speaking of Shang-Chi that I mentioned earlier, since Marvel has changed the order of the movies it's releasing, we might get a Shang-Chi trailer sometime early next year, but I believe the Black Widow movie is still going to be the first film Marvel releases. We got all those Avengers WandaVision episodes starting at the beginning of January next year, so we'll hear more Marvel Phase 4 stuff during that, and I'll cover that during my Marvel videos. I try to keep the DC videos mostly about DC stuff. But everyone let me know in the comments what you think of this and which other Batman stories you want them to adapt into movies, even rated R Batman movies. And let me know if you read any of those classic Batman Kung Fu crossover stories back during the 1970s. Some of this is really deep cuts. I've got a new Mandalorian Season 2 Episode 4 video that'll post this Friday and a couple other bonus videos, but leave all your requests in the comments below. I just did a video for the brand new Justice League Snyder Cut trailer and the commentary that Zack Snyder did on it. You can click here to watch that. And you can click here to learn all about that new Mandalorian Season 2 Ahsoka Tano scene. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe. I'll see you guys tonight.